excited to review my favorite TV show series because, well, why not? The Office was originally a British sitcom aired on BBC, which revolved around a group of workers in an office who lived through every other day. This bred a somewhat new style of TV shows that are disguised as basically fake documentaries with people talking directly to the camera. The Office's inspiration for this type of format, however, was from a Canadian show known as the Trailer Park Boys, where a camera crew follows a neighborhood of people in, you guessed it, a trailer park. The Office, the US edition, aired back in March of 2005. The plot was simple, a documentary of a paper company known as Dunder Mifflin and how the employees went through every other day in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Similar to the first TV show. The main character is the boss known as Michael Scott, played by Steve Carell, who is, to put it simply, the lovable asshole. Michael's character in the beginning is almost more insensitive than he is in later seasons, coming off as kind of a narcissist, practically abusing his friendship with Dwight, the assistant to the regional manager, played by Rainn Wilson, along with basically sexually harassing the receptionist Pam, played by Jenna Fischer. Michael's character in the first season, and even somewhat in the second season of the show, is just kind of incredibly unlikable at first, and you just kind of root for him to get fired. But almost immediately, you fall in love with characters like Jim, played by John Krasinski. I still don't know how to pronounce his name. The salesman who loves to pull pranks on the assistant to the regional manager, Dwight, and is utterly in love with Pam, who is engaged in the beginning of the series. We are introduced to other characters such as Stanley, Phyllis, Angela, etc., but none are really focused on as much as Michael, Jim, Pam, and Dwight. Season 1 is nothing more than a 6-episode character intro and setup. It's rather boring, but somehow you just kind of want to keep watching because you feel like it will get better. Season 2 rolls around pretty quickly, and you almost don't even notice it's a whole different season. Season 2 starts with Michael's first kind of sign of compassion as he is setting up for an annual awards known as the Dundies. He gives out rewards to his employees to try and make them feel good, yet makes jokes like with Kelly, played by Mindy Kaling, the Indian customer service representative, by giving her an award titled Spicy Curry Award. Even with these insensitive jokes, he still does the Dundies for his employees and himself at the same time, but you still get the point. The big episode that is next in the series that is truly crucial to the roles in the series as it develops is the episode titled The Client, in which Michael and his boss Jan, played by Melora Hardin, kiss after closing a big sale. Jan immediately regrets this mistake, and Michael sees this as Jan becoming somewhat his girlfriend. Now, this is important because this later develops Jan and Michael's relationship, but also shows that Michael really moves on fast whenever he has contact with a girl. This leads to his character actually developing in later seasons, and we'll see why if you guys want me to review the later seasons. The next big episode, which plays into the overall story, is the episode titled Email Surveillance, in which Michael is able to moderate his employees' emails. This is when Michael finds that Jim is having a barbecue that everyone but Michael was invited to, and even Dwight and Angela have been invited to, who are basically the two most unliked people in the office. This makes Michael upset, but it is the subplot, which is really important in this episode. Pam is convinced Dwight and Angela are together as they spend lots and lots of time together, talk quietly, and she finds that Dwight is even eating a candy bar that Angela bought. But Pam is shut down quickly after asking Phyllis about the two, as Phyllis assumes that Pam is referring to her and Jim, who may be together. Pam, of course, assumes that they must just be best friends like her and Jim, but at the end, it is indeed revealed that both Angela and Dwight are romantically together. The next important episode in the series is Booze Cruise, in which Jim confesses to Michael that he loves Pam, or has a small crush on her. The next, what I would consider important episode is titled Boys and Girls, and the really only important part is when Pam wishes to go to art school part-time on weekends, and how Jim and Pam's fiancé Roy react. Jim's immediate response is, "I think you should go," and encouraging her art talent, whereas Roy rejects the idea of Pam ever becoming an artist. This is when I think Pam really starts to think about her future with Roy. Valentine's Day is another good episode in which Roy does not get anything for Pam for Valentine's Day, and Michael is once again kissed by Jan. Conflict Resolution is the episode before the last of Season 2. This episode only has one factor that is important: the fact that Jim complained to Toby, the HR employee, about Pam planning her wedding at work, which hurts Pam, as she sees Jim as her best friend. She really wouldn't understand why her best friend would do such a thing, and thus creating somewhat of her realizing how Jim really feels. The last episode is still my favorite episode of the series, as well as many fans. Casino Night, episode 22 of season 2. This episode is one that many fans love because of the ending. Casino Night is where, you guessed it, the employees have a casino night where all the money will be donated to charity. Michael finds himself in a pickle when inviting both Jan and another woman named Carol, who is actually Steve Carell's real wife, which is kind of clever. He ends up spending more time with Carol, and this seems to make Jan rather upset. Again, this kind of comes into play later on, as she drastically gets worse with this kind of behavior. Jan offers Jim a promotion and a job in Stamford. So, seeing as Jim has accepted, he goes for the only thing keeping him in Scranton. He confesses to Pam, telling her he doesn't want to be friends anymore and that he loves her. It's honestly really heartfelt, and you can tell in the episode just how much emotion was put into this performance. She rejects Jim, causing tears to roll down his face as he retreats back inside. The last scene of the episode is Pam on the phone with her mother, asking what she should do, as she probably has now explained to her mother what Jim has said. Jim comes in, and Pam hangs up the phone. As she's about to talk to Jim, Jim grabs Pam and kisses her as she kisses him back. The season ends right there, leaving it up to a fan's interpretation until season 3 of what happens afterwards. Season 1 was, as I said before, kind of boring and wasn't too entertaining. The camera quality wasn't as good, but of course back then it was 2005, and you couldn't really expect much from a small series like this. Of course, as I said before, the first season was also somewhat of a 6-episode setup for characters. It showed you what the characters were like, what some of them thought, what some of them enjoyed, such as Pam being an artist and Pam's engagement to Roy. It gave us a little insight to stuff like that. The second season is where it really hit off for most fans and where most people fell in love with the show almost, because it was real. People had bosses that were like Michael, who were just kind of an asshole who didn't really understand that they were an asshole who just wanted people to like them. We've all been in this position where Jim has been, where he's loved someone he couldn't be with at the time. And I think some of us can relate to Pam in her questioning if she was with the right person. It's not even necessarily how we've worked with people, but just our daily lives, and that's one of the reasons I believe so many people fell in love with this show. And that is where this review will end for now. The first season of The Office started a fandom of people to follow this show, including a little toddler me. This show means a lot to me because I grew up with it, and it was something me and my parents would bond over. And even to this day, the last episode makes me cry. In the next part, if you guys want one, we will review Season 3 and a bit of Season 4 maybe. Until then, please give this video a big thumbs up because it will make my day. Go ahead and leave a comment about what you think of this series and what other things I should review and what you'd like to see me review. Go ahead and subscribe because Frightening Fives will come out every Monday, Faith Reviews and Character Voices every Wednesday, and Fridays will be narrations or Faith Reviews. And as always, stay freaky, my little freaks. I'll see you later.